At the beginning of 2024, I vowed one resolution to myself. Every day, I would practice the feeling of being upside down, starting from against the wall to doing practices that strengthened my core. I practiced getting used to this scary and anxiety-inducing feeling of holding myself up with just two hands. And on the days that I succeeded, I felt great. On the days that I failed, I felt like I wasn't making the progress I wanted. I learned that my best days came from preparing, stretching my feet, stretching my calves and my wrists and my arms, tapping my feet onto my wrists so that my body can get used to going upside down. This simple act taught me that when I was overthinking and erratic, I couldn't do this simple task. But when I prepared myself and conditioned my body to get used to the climax of being upside down, I could eventually topple and achieve the goal I set out for myself. This act of showing up meant that more than any other thing, the one thing that I was continuously embedding in my body was to let go. Let go of judgment toward myself, let go of preconceptions of the perfect form, let go of expectations that I would succeed in a handstand immediately on the first try. And I would not spend more than 5 minutes every day doing this. I would say I practiced this about 5 days out of the week, so it's probably around 300 days out of the year. 5 minutes for 300 days. And I did it. I succeeded in it, and I learned, the mind, it's a funny thing. It's a muscle. It works just like the body. When you treat the mind with patience and dedication, when you give it the ingredients of compassion and unconditional approval, it will reward you with thought patterns you never thought would be possible. It will reward you with a new identity, a more flexible framework, especially when you encounter situations that feel really personally against you. This work slowly compounded over time. And I saw through this simple exercise that consistent effort, no matter how small, pays off eventually. So this little experiment I did myself, it really expanded into other areas of my life. I've been experimenting with what it means to trust my intuition, leaning into this intangibly abstract feeling, and finally heeding that call to be myself, whatever that means, once and for all. More than ever, I started using my imagination intentionally. Every single night, this is a practice I learned from a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, as well as from the pillars of self-hypnosis. Every night I would, right before I go to bed, sit up in bed, meditate, and imagine a scenario that I really wanted to manifest. If you know anything about manifestation, you might know that some people will journal a lot and write affirmations. Some people will act like they already have their desire, whether that was taking on the traits of their ideal person, changing their outfit, changing their appearance. This specific way I found worked for me the best because it not only tapped into the senses currently in my body, it also allowed my imagination to be trusted. It allowed my intuition to grow and be nurtured into something I only thought was possible on shrooms. So I manifested a modeling gig for the first time. I manifested moving to a new city with no job prospects, and now I have a job. And I manifested becoming this person who is socially charismatic, who could talk about what they love, their passions, in a way that felt true and resonant to whatever feelings that was happening at the time. I like to call this a type of practical magic. It's not spell work necessarily. It's not manipulating yourself, but it is using your intuition in a way that serves how you function currently. This exercise is a feedback loop in my mind. Similarly to doing a handstand every single day, I would create the scenario in my mind, imagine I was already there, and follow the sequence of events that would lead me to the desired feeling. Let's say I really want to manifest a modeling gig. I would imagine I open up my email, I get a notification from my agency, they send me an opportunity that I'm really excited about, and then I would take a trip to the studio, imagine myself going into the studio and embody the person that is successfully enacting the photo shoot and creating a storyline in my head of the entire sequence. This is the same for becoming more socially confident at a party or succeeding at a meeting at work. Manifesting a job. Literally, the more I learned about who I already am and the possibilities within my body, the easier it was to quickly manifest the things that I wanted. I have a gripe with using the word manifestation because I found that it's been super saturated nowadays to be almost like a spiritual bypassing where you're not cognizant of the emotions, the doubts that hold you back, especially when you start experimenting with your mind. And I found that especially on the days where it was really, really hard to trust the process, because I had so many of those days, like weeks, I would observe the emotion and not let it further this old story, this old narrative of insecurity, of doubt, of unworthiness. And it was up to me to really detach from that story and see that story for what it was, knowing that, hey, I actually had this story for more than a decade of my life. And only recently, in this past year, I've started to create a new story for myself. So I understand that it takes time for the old story to fall away, for my mind and body to no longer want to believe in that story and keep telling myself that old story. These trials of turbulent emotions, of the unknown, and so many things that I couldn't control in my life really tested me. It was a testament to how much I believed in myself, believed in my thoughts, my assets, my resources, the value that was inherent in me. And as I believed in this new story more, I was presented with opportunities and milestones that kind of represented stepping stones toward this dream I had. These tests, I think, were really breadcrumbs, which signal me towards experiences I actually want to be in. And this entire process, looking back at it, while I'm still in it, it shifted my ideology. It transformed the way I thought about myself, the way I perceived this world, the way I show up in relationships, and the way I talk about myself, my interests, the people I love. And ultimately, it gave me this sense of acceptance, knowing that I can't control the things that happen in this world, but as long as I know and can control the habits in my mind and in my body, there's a sense of safety, of being held by the universe, by something greater outside of me. And slowly I started to curate a new version, a more grounded version of who I am. I've been told, this year especially, people have been telling me that I'm very brave for moving to a new city without a job, for putting myself in new situations, for doing so many things, showing up in friendships, at work, online, that a lot of people would be too scared to do. There's this fear of being who you are in front of the camera because you feel like once the camera shows up, there's this like wall that separates you. And all this to say, this practice, this habit of visualization, of acknowledging the old story but not giving into it, has taught me that everything that happens is just through my own perception. And when I can curate my own perception and become more curious, become more loving, become more collaborative with the world, with my relationships, when there's conflict, then there's this sense of feeling like I'm really in this world, I'm really on this planet, I'm really in my body. You know, once upon a time, I would trace back to where those old feelings came from. I've been on a self-help development journey for a couple years now, and I used to be in talk therapy for about 5 or 6 years. I've been on antidepressants. I've tried all different types of healing modalities, from yoga to meditation to journaling to CBT, even psychedelic therapy. And journaling, I think, did help at the time when it served a purpose of understanding where do these habits come from. Like I said, every single thought, every single behavior that you choose to enact is a habit. It came from somewhere. I would ask myself these questions of what made me become the person that I am, what made me have these automatic reactions. And I would learn, you know, what were the core memories as a child that I would experience that taught me these internalized behaviors that at the time felt like were limitations that prevented me from accessing my fuller self. Now I realize they were just like bubbles that needed to be popped to reveal a deeper level within myself that I wanted to find out. A good example is I really used to struggle with anxiety. I still do. I think anxiety is a natural protective mechanism. I no longer think of anxiety as an enemy. I think of it as a friend that tells me, where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? What do I actually want to talk about? But I used to struggle with anxiety in a way that made me act like a people pleaser. I think that's like one of the most common things that so many people I come across in hypnosis has talked to me about, people pleasing. When you're in that state, you want to conform to your idea of what somebody else wants you to be. You're trying to assume that somebody wants you to be this way, and so you act into that character. But the thing that I learned is you will never know what somebody else thinks of you unless you ask them directly. Even then, there is never an objective view of who you are, like outside of you. And so being a people pleaser is really a selfish way of trying to contain the part of you that actually wants to be free, and trying to emulate this fake part of you, or not fake, but the part of you that you see reflected with the other person, so that you are trying to please them and place their needs above you. And through this, you subconsciously teach yourself that you are not equal to the other person, that you're putting them on the pedestal, that your needs are not inherently worthy. You're recognizing this and this behavior, no matter what childhood memory this stemmed from, really made me aware that this pattern was not just something that I could journal through, that I could talk through. I think a lot of us are aware that we have that trait, but when you actually want to change it, it's going deeper into what is the positive intention behind this? What is my need that I'm trying to fill for wanting to be a people pleaser? Why do I not trust myself enough to not be a people pleaser, to instead be a self pleaser? Not a hedonist, but a person who trusts their own judgment about themselves and has enough courage, has the genuine bond and relationship with yourself that you make choices that feel intuitively right for you. So anyways, I say all this to share that we are made of patterns. We're full of patterns. I am nothing more than a fractal part of this universe, and I am always replaying the same patterns that I was gifted with, even beyond my moment of birth. And so on the other side of this, of self-trust, is letting go. On days, even now, when I experience confusion, doubt, guilt, shame, I remind myself that change is the absolute truth to life. All energy comes from my thoughts, and all thoughts contain the power within me. So it's up to me to channel that energy into something that really allows me to encompass and integrate my whole self. Let go of these black and white thinking of scenarios and situations and perceptions. There's really no need for me to hold on to feelings of unworthiness. Just like there's no need for me to feel like I'm better than anyone else, or let my ego take me to places that I honestly wouldn't want to be in. To conclude this, and to celebrate almost a year of me starting this channel, I am offering you an affirmation that you can repeat after me. And here it is. I am simply a vessel for creation, a vessel to transpire desire into form, and I'm all the more whole for it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, let me know what you thought, and I will see you very soon. Ciao.